Hi, everyone. My name is Daphne Thomson, and I help municipalities increase capacity and build efficiencies within the local government by using AI. And today I am speaking to the founder of the W Group, Kent Waugh, and we're going to chat about AI and how do we build public trust. So, Kent, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Daphne. It's great to be on your show. Is this actually a show? This is great.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and about how do we build public trust, or how does the W Group go about that?
Sure. The W Group's been involved with local governments for many years, 16 formal years. Our main focus with building public trust for municipalities is there's a number of services or products that we offer. We build community panels, which are used for public engagement. We conduct surveys on behalf of municipalities. We create and install digital smart forms and process improvement. We develop e-learning programs for municipal staff. We also build and support e-newsletter programs and a number of other things, but they're really all under the umbrella of how can we help municipal governments increase the trust that residents have in them and their operations.
All right, so let's start with like public engagement. So the first thing that comes to mind is usually it's town hall meetings, it's paper surveys, it's newsletters dropped in their mailboxes. Now it's social media. So how would the W Group go about building trust in that way for public engagement?
It all comes down to what the specific topic and issue is that the government is wrestling with. Recently, there was a senior housing project going on in one community, and they needed to do a town hall meeting. So we went out there, and of course, they used social media to promote that. But it was very much hands-on in the town hall meeting to discuss the various aspects of it. But in terms of potential use of AI, if you want to go there, Daphne, it's taking the whole slew of information that was presented as part of a pretty detailed proposal and pulling out the salient points and being able to create a presentation very quickly. Still a presentation that a lot of people had to go through and make sure that the language was accurate and so on. But just the speed of being able to pull something like that together, I think that's a huge win for municipalities.
I love what you said. It's about the speed, because the speed increases capacity. So we're able to roll something like this out in so much faster. We can scale it so much faster, and we don't have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks to get the feedback. So we can crunch the data numbers a lot quicker as well, and be able to make decisions and more accurate decisions because now we've got data points.
Yes, yeah. And it's not a case where you just throw something at AI, as you know, and just let it go and it comes back and it has a nice, neat little report and that's it and your work is over. It is and I like the term that Microsoft gives to it. It's a Copilot. It's your buddy there that can say, hey, take this volume of information and bring it together into a package, whether it's PowerPoint presentation or something else, that you get to the key points really quickly. And it still takes a lot of eyes on that document to make sure it's accurate, because we know that sometimes it comes back and there's little ghosts in there. But
yeah, the human oversight is of the utmost importance with all these things, because AI doesn't have context, right?
Absolutely.
AI doesn't have the corporate memory. AI doesn't have the feel for the community, where a human still does. So do you think that would go into the way that we prompt it? Would that ease this a little bit?
Well, it could. One community a number of years ago said to us when we were doing a survey with them, and we were set to analyze the verbatim comments, and they said, "Oh, don't worry about the verbatim comments. We've done that." And we went, "Okay, so how did you do that?" "Oh, we just used AI and came up with a summary." And we went, "Okay, I'd love to see the prompt that you used to analyze, because there was a lot of verbatim comments and they are detailed. And as you said, the history of the organization and culture and so on is one thing, but the history and the culture of a community is something entirely different. Now, this particular, I won't name the name of the municipality, but this particular municipality also has the same municipality name exists in a lot of other countries around the world. And I said, were you specific about the exact municipality? Because if you just dump them in there and they said, let's say, for example, Paris, well, Paris, Texas is different than Paris, France. And the AI is going to look entirely different. So you're not going to necessarily have indigenous issues or challenges for Paris, France, but you may very well have for Paris, Texas. So you really need to understand that.
I think you touched on something really crucial, which is also the ethical part of making use of AI.
Yes.
Now, I don't fully agree that you have to tell everyone every single time you make use of AI, because it is assumed that we all use calculators, right? And that's a form of AI. It is assumed that we make use of Google Maps, and that's a form of AI.
Grammarly.
Exactly, Grammarly, all these different things. So when we start using AI on a continuous basis, it will just be assumed that we use it, right? It is a tool. It is our Copilot, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But now when we come to things like this, where there's actually being used for analytical purposes or for decision-making, now this is where I think the big key aspect of ethical usage and transparency needs to come in. Because this is where we need to be able to give a track record for FRI requests, right?
Yes.
So when we use AI now in your example to say, well, this is the comments that came out of it, was it a transcript that was fed into AI and said, analyze us, or give us a summary of the main points that came out? Yes. Then it's a different situation than just going into it and search the web for what, because then your type of information of the different location is then AI smoking shrooms. It's not the correct data that's coming out, right?
Yeah, you really need to have that clarity. Like when we're doing a survey, a formal survey for a community, and we're presenting the results, we always conclude the exact questionnaire that was used and the exact methodology that was used. We don't detail the statistical analysis that that was used on each question, but it's really baked in there anyway. But if we were to use AI for analyzing verbatim comments, it would be our responsibility to say, we've used AI to analyze the verbatim comments. Here's the prompt that we use. Here's the platform that we use, and we did consider indigenous lands rights and everything else that goes along with that particular community.
Exactly.
You can't do it in a bubble and shouldn't.
No, I agree with you. But then we go back to what is the ethical use of that and what is the correct prompting for it in order to create it, because AI is amazing. To have something like that in a massive forum, which you are engaging with on a constant basis, make use of AI to help us to create data points out of that, create sentiment out of that, helps us with so much of our learning as well, right?
No, yes, absolutely.
By using that, for example, and going into smart forms or feedback loops, things like that, how can we build trust with the community that they don't feel like, oh, we're just speaking to a robot?
Well, never have a robot speak to them that they're getting dead-ended by a robot or dead-ended by a chat bot. That's a challenge. That's also a challenge within the commercial world. And you and I have had different conversations about, this ramping up of consumer expectations since pandemic, expectations and immediate gratification and so on. Consumers have had this ramping up of expectations, and they look to their municipal government, and they have the same expectations of their municipal government as they do of Amazon and any other commercial entity that they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's getting there.
However, the municipality is being saddled with significant cost increase because of new legislation, because of tariffs, because of just cost managing municipalities. And on the other side of the equation, they are all suffering from lack of capacity because they are missing, a lot of them are missing key players in key departments. We've seen a retirement wave
It is
because,
coming in. Yeah.
and there, when we look at the age of the middle managers and senior managers, we also see that there's going to be another retirement wave in the next, you know,
5 years.
2 to 5 years. And unless the municipalities are going out and finding people and recruiting them and going through training and everything to get the capacity totally built up, and they're still behind if they get that done, they will need additional help. And one of the things, I just mentioned training, and we've talked
Mhm.
about training and the work that you did in Port Edward with taking large information data sets and saying, let's create a training program for this, and then let's create an in-house GPT to very, very quickly search and sort and identify key solutions. That's amazing. We create e-learning programs for municipalities very specific to that municipality. But the use of AI and being able to take that raw material that is there and very specific to municipalities, run it through AI and have it come out on the other end as a training program, phenomenal. What a great savings of time and building of capacity.
I do 100% agree with you with all of that, but I want to bring it back to building trust,
Sure.
because that's what we really want to chat about today. So if we make use, for example, offline, we chatted about making use of AI to create better questions. And I loved what you said by saying that it is all about testing various ones. And some of the questions might actually not be even relevant. So do you want to delve a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, it's really challenging. I would love to say we can just sit down with chat GPT and come up with a great questionnaire, or have a standardized. One of our large clients said, hey, you know what, we have this great idea, let's standardize all the questionnaires across the city. And going, hey, that is
It's not going to work.
that is impossible. Like, it'd be great to do that, and some of the software platforms that are out there being sold to municipalities, purport to have these great databases of questions, but it really comes down to the subject matter expert. And it was something that you mentioned earlier, understanding the residents in the municipality. We work with about 25% of BC municipalities, and each community has a different feel altogether. And you go,
Exactly.
this language over here works, this language over here doesn't work. We've done, oddly enough, cemetery usage surveys for different communities. One community, wide open, totally responsive. This is great, wonderful. We do it in a community almost next door, and everybody is so turned off and offended by the city asking questions about, how do you use cemeteries? Do you go for a walk in cemeteries? And it's fascinating, but that's where AI is a long way off. And so you can kind of skip maybe a step and get some ideas, but in terms of really being good at what you do, it's not there yet.
Not yet. However, with the learning that AI is doing consistently, it does get pretty close. However, and to go back to residents feeling like they're speaking to a robot, it really does depend on, like you said, the culture, the background, the community feel, and then how AI assists us in wording that so that it fits the culture and fits the community.
Yes.
But when we use this now in order to create feedback loops, right? But to serve the community better, AI is amazing at automating all of this. So it takes away some of that administrative tasks and duties, which increase capacity. It is amazing at giving us suggestions of what to do next, helping us with the roadmaps, suggesting what roadmaps we could follow, which cuts down on the learning curve again, right?
Yes.
So by using all of this, and we did have, of course, communities going that, hey, we're a fisher town or we're a forestry town. We've never made use of this before. We don't need this. And I assume this is only municipalities that I have worked with, not everyone.
Yes.
But there is sometimes that resistance with making use of AI. How do we build trust within our communities and still find the balance to increase our capacity by tools like Copilot?
Well, I don't think because you're using AI, you have to go out to the community and say, hey, we're trying to build better trust by using AI. I think you have to use AI smartly and actually prove that you as a community are being more efficient, being more effective, being more responsive to the needs of the residents. How you do that is entirely up to you. You know, you and I know that most of the municipalities don't have the capacity to do that on their own anymore. And they don't have the budget to go and hire all the people that they would need in order to get that done. So this is like tapping into the power of AI is one way for them to get the things done that are most important to the residents and deliver to those services, programs, information to the residents to satisfy that much higher level of expectation that the residents, i.e. consumers, have. And that in itself builds trust.
Exactly.
It's not about the municipality going out and touting, hey, we're building trust by the use of AI. No, I don't think anybody's going to really buy into that. They're going to be going, what are you talking about? It's using it to become even better, more efficient, and delivering the promises that you make to the residents, because that's how you build trust.
I love what you said. Is like listening to the residents. Now, majority of the smaller communities still live on Facebook, and that's not something that, well, me or I don't know who else, but is very active on these days. So making use of AI for social listening, that is something that I think AI is absolutely phenomenal with, because then it can flag trends. For example, dozens of people are mentioning the same issue at the park, or the potholes, or the water that is brown, or something that we haven't noticed yet. By making use of AI, listening to what is the conversation online, we are able to respond a lot quicker.
Yes. But I would say the caveat in there is, what is it that you're listening to? I have seen different municipalities listening for potholes, listening for, damage to swings in parks and so on, and being able to pick up on that very quickly. But going back to the public engagement, I would say you don't want to tap into it and say, okay, what's everybody saying about our municipality or about these particular services or decisions on social media? Because as we know, not the majority, but a lot of people on social media are not necessarily the most positive or most polite on social media. It's almost given them permission to just, let it rip and be as ignorant as they can be, type of thing. It is not a replacement for properly conducted public consultation that includes everyone in the community, because the loudest voices on social media do not represent your community. And if anything, and I think we also talked about e-newsletters, because we've always been a huge proponent of communities using e-newsletters. And as I mentioned before, that's one of the things that we do. And why we're such huge proponents is that a newsletter, when it's properly organized and designed and
segmented and personalized, customized.
And this is where AI can go into the community's website or go into the latest council report and say, let's summarize what are the top 3 council decisions this week? Let's come up with an article. And within, maybe 20 minutes or less, you have an article that you can put in a newsletter and send out. Now, sending it through a newsletter is direct to residents.
Yep.
No bots, no nefarious actors, no trolls, no negative people can jump on that message. It's going directly to residents, and that is one of the keys to building public trust, is a direct line of communication.
Even if you used AI to create that or to put it together, because let's face it, if there's, for example, something that a bylaw officer would write, now they write like cops. It is very to the point. It's very direct.
Yes.
And it takes so much more work for those type of analytical brains to put something in a conversational output. So this is where AI can assist those type of professionals to stick to what they do amazingly well and empower them to still get the message across direct to the consumer or the resident. And I agree with you. That's an amazing way to build trust. Well, we are coming to the end. We are a little bit time struck right now.
No.
And yeah, you and me could just chat on all day long, right?
We do. Sometimes we do.
We do. Because we both geek out on these things and it's amazing. So thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience with?
No, I think just, especially if the audience is municipal staffers, which I imagine is, and elected officials, like, don't shy away from the opportunity that's in front of us right now. And I think there's huge benefits to forging ahead with AI. And even if you're taking baby steps, at least you're going in the right direction, because I have seen the power that it holds for a lot of municipalities, and think that it's there. I'll go back and make the comment again, using the Microsoft Copilot, that it's not the end all be all. It's not the silver bullet that's going to solve all the challenges, but it's going to help tremendously with that capacity issue that we're all facing right now. And it's going to be able to support your staff. And no, quite frankly, it's not going to replace any existing staff, because we all know how busy everybody is anyway.
It will just increase the capacity and the efficiency of the current staff to actually keep up with what is happening and keep up with the workload.
Yes. I would think, if anything, more than anything else, is probably going to increase morale and job satisfaction, because they're not necessarily doing really super tedious work, but they're doing work that they can see has a direct and positive influence on residents and the public trust that residents have in the community. Higher your public trust, the easier it is to manage a municipality.
I just have to add on that. See, we're geeking out again and we're out of time. But to add on that is when we start actually communicating with residents on a consistent basis through the use of social media or newsletters or even inboxes, any of that, the trust automatically builds, because there's clear communication. And when they silence, that's usually when people's imaginations go wild, and that's never a good thing for anyone. No. It is when there's clear, direct communication that is from the authoritative source, which is the local government, then people feel a lot more at ease, especially when majority of residents only want to feel heard. And that's where leniency comes in, to actually go do your job and find the answers and to serve them better. But if there isn't that communication, then there's breakdown. And when there's a breakdown in communication, that's when everything explodes.
Yes.
And AI is an amazing tool that can help you with that, fast tracking the communication, being more transparent, being able to get messages out a little better, to keep track of what messages are sending out. And through all of that, AI assists in building trust.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, Kent. It's always lovely to chat to you. Looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Daphne.